I built this landing page in less than 30 minutes, and today I'm going to show you how you can do the same in less than 10 minutes. Before we continue, let me explain what a traditional software engineer does. A traditional software engineer knows an underlying programming language. They might know these programming language, and so among a programming language, there are what you call packages. Just bear with me, this will all make sense in a second. In programming languages world, these are packages and maybe tools. Mostly you're going to be working with packages. And packages are basically bundled up programs that make life really easy for software engineers. Common problems that have been solved have been bundled up into packages. So you as a software engineer working on some sort of app on the internet, it is your job to take these packages and integrate them into the idea, what you are trying to build. Okay. And this is how software engineering has been for the past whatever years. I think in the future, what we are going to start seeing happen is software engineering is going to change a little bit. This field is going to change a bit, and I want to elaborate on that. Some of these things are still going to stay the same, but I think what is going to be different is this circle right here is going to get larger. Okay, this circle you see right here is only going to get bigger. So if we take this circle, put it in here, it becomes part of the circle right here. So this circle becomes bigger. Just bear with me. I'll make my point in a second. So this circle becomes bigger, right? So now what happens is, instead of just having packages here, now we have templates. Still have packages. We have agents. We now have agents, and tooling has gotten 10 times better. We have libraries, which are still packages, but I'll explain in a second. So we have that, right? So this still stays the same. Okay, you build an application and you are still gonna have to integrate all of these into your application. The way you integrate these into your application is also going to change, and today I'm going to show you how one of the ways it is going to change. This new way that I'm about to show you is also going to help those that are not particularly designers. They don't have any experience with software design or anything, but they have an idea, but whatever is stopping them is just the design or the technicality of building a software. Okay, this is going to make it a lot easier for everybody. It's just natural language communication with the AI and let it do most of the work. So we want to build a landing page. We want to build something like this, a landing page. What do you call it? A navigation bar at the top. We want some sort of hero section right here. We want call to action button right here. We want some sort of this could be your team, or this could be testimonial section right here, and this is your feature section, and this could be your pricing, and this is the benefits section, and then we have the footer right here at the bottom. So as you can see, what we are trying to build here is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. But what are you going to need for this project? You're going to need a few things. First of all, you're going to need Node.js. This is very important. This is going to allow us to be able to run our application locally on our computer. So just go ahead and follow the instructions to install this, and if you get stuck, just ask ChatGPT to help you out. The next thing is we are going to need some sort of IDE, and this one is AI powered. This one is called Cursor. Very popular right now. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody and their grandma is talking about this IDE right now. You've probably already heard about this. This is a very powerful IDE that has a lot of AI integration, and it comes with a free tier. You can use the free tier to play around with this, when working with this video. Or if you want to use this extensively, you might want to think about upgrading to the Pro plan. So something to keep in mind. There are other cheaper alternatives out there like Melty. Melty is an open source version. It hasn't come out yet, but I think the source code is out, but you can get an early access. Okay, don't want to dwell too much here. But another one is Ada. Ada works a little bit differently, and it works in your terminal. This is just a little bit more complex to set up. So what else are we going to need? We are going to be using Aceternity. Maybe I'm butchering this name, but we're going to be using Aceternity. It offers a great component library with animations, very popular. and it can whip out landing pages and in a matter of like minutes. And this is what we're going to be using to help us out. Okay, it uses Next.js, React, Tailwind, Framework Motion, and you're going to come right here to Aceternity UI. Just type it in your browser, come here, go to the install Next.js, and we want to spin up a new Next.js application. Once you have Cursor installed, just open it up, and we're going to create a new application folder. So I'm just going to click open folder, create a new folder, and just name it whatever you want. In this my case, I'm going to name it Beautiful. And the next thing we're going to do is to open up a terminal. And the way we open up a terminal on Mac is Control-Shift-Caret. That is going to open up a terminal. And we're going to do one thing first. We're going to check if we have Node.js installed. So the way you check if you have Node.js installed is Node v. Okay, so this shows I have Node.js installed on my machine and I'm good to go. Just make sure you have this installed, and if you don't have this installed, go back to the previous instructions or use ChatGPT. The next thing we are going to do is to run this command. So we run Next.js latest, and it's going to ask us to name our project, and I'm just going to name it Beautiful London, and just enter through the options, and it should spin up a Next.js application for us really quickly in this folder. The next thing we're going to do is we need to cd into this folder we just created. So just remember the name and cd into it, and let's just make sure our application is installed correctly and running. So just run this command, yarn run dev. If everything is correct, it should give us a local URL right here that we can run locally in our browser. So let me just go to my browser. So this is what is running on your end. When you install a new Next.js application, you get this generic code that we are going to be removing in a second. So what we are going to do now is we're going to summon the composer. So Cursor has what you call the composer. Okay, and it's just like ChatGPT prompt that you can give it a prompt, and it has context of your whole code base, and I can create files, make refactor code, change things around. It can do a bunch of stuff. So we're about to do that, but before we summon the composer, we just need to follow a few more instructions. So we still haven't installed Aceternity, so I'm gonna install Aceternity. So I'm gonna come back to Cursor, spin up another terminal, separate terminal. Make sure we are in the same folder, and if you're not, cd into, okay, and run this command, and it's gonna just initialize Aceternity for us. So it has installed a few things for us. It has installed Tailwind, CSS, Framework Motion. So it installed a few things for us that we are gonna need. So let's move on to the next step. With Aceternity, it comes with a bunch of components you can use for your landing page. And as you can see here, these are all beautiful components we can use. And we can install all of these separately, and if you go to every component, it shows you how you can install it separately. And that is the amazing thing about this. You don't need to install all of the library into your component and now use leave your application bloated. But usually that is what you want to do. But for this example, I want to install all of the components, so I have everything that I need to get going. So I'm going to come here and run this command, npx Aceternity UI. Let us add all, and it's just going to add all of the components into our application. So let's just wait for it to do its thing. And if we go right here in the components folder and open it up, actually you can see here it's beginning to add some more dependencies within our project, within our package.json. And if we open up components right here, you see that, oh, now we have a bunch of components installed for us. So it has installed everything that we need. And if we open up this components folder here, now we have a bunch of stuff. We have blocks, has demo, feature and cards, example, bunch of example, and all of the components. So we get a bunch of stuff by just installing everything into our computer. So this is great. Now, what we want to do next is we want to summon the composer. The way you summon the composer is command I summons the composer, and this little thing right here is the composer. That's what you call the composer. So I'm just going to delete everything here. We don't need to reference any files for now. So we have our composer right here. I'm just going to give it a prompt to get started. And basically what this prompt is to tell it reference the entire code base, and the way you reference files in KSS composer is the @ and the file name, and for the entire code base you just use code base. Okay, please use the following components to compose a landing page for an AI company. These are the components, and for the navigation I reference this component. For the hero I reference the hero demo, which are all found within this components folder that we just installed. So these can all be found within the examples and the blog. So it has a bunch of examples that we can use, and if you want to know what an example is, if we come to Aceternity and let's say we go to 3D CAD, it gives us an example of what it could look like. So as you can see here, this looks amazing. If you go through the normal route and just install the component, it's just going to give you the bare bones. So it's not going to give you this example. So if you want this example, then you got to copy this example code and put it into your application. But because we already had all of the components installed, if I go over to my application, I can literally look for this component and find it. 3D CAD demo, and you can see that 3D CAD demo, we have demo 2 and then we have 3D demo that has already been provided for us. So we can reference this in our composer and tell it to use this example to build our landing page straight up for us, so we don't have to build this. And then we can probably go in here, rename the file, move it, and put our own information in here. So this gives us a great starting point. So I'm just going to hit enter and let's just see what it does. Now it's done at 10. It's telling us in the index, this is where it dropped. So now I can accept all, and then we can go to the browser and see what that does. So let's see what happens. And that is because Composer dropped this file in the wrong folder. So I put it in an index page, but we're not using the pages. Okay, we're using the app. We want to use this page. So what I can tell Composer to do is to please move pages, put in pages index to the page in app folder, and let's just see what it does. So as you can see, it successfully moved it to the appropriate folder. So I'm just gonna accept, and let's go to the browser. We get this ugly error that says you are importing a component that needs use state. Next.js has this weird thing when you are using components that uses some sort of state. You need to mark it as a client component. So that is the error we're getting, but I'm going to provide this error to Composer and see what it does with it. Let's see what it does. All right, so it was able to correct that and add the use client into our application. So now if we go back to the browser, we get a different error. It says, invalid source prop. Basically, we are using some images within our next application, and Next.js doesn't like that. It wants you to define every image host that you use. So we're gonna go back to the Composer and just give it an error and see what it does. And as you can see, and that's 10. So let's just wait. So it made changes to our next config, and by adding Unsplash host, so our images can go through. So I'm just going to accept, and let's go back to our browser. And this time around, let's see if it loads. Nothing happens. So it looks like there is an issue from earlier. So I'm just going to copy this. I know what the issue is. It's because of the index file that it created earlier. So it's giving us some instructions here. So I can copy this. I can copy the instructions it gave me by removing this folder, and I can put it in there. Oh, I can just come here and just remove this. And let's try this again. So since we made a bunch of changes to the Next.js config file, I think it's best that we restart the server. So I'm just rerunning the server right now. And look at it, guys. Okay, look at what we get. Look what we get. Okay, look at what we get. So our AI features, it definitely got something terribly wrong. This button should be in the middle. It shouldn't be all the way here. And the navigation seems to be breaking. So let me just give it this error. Yep. And let's apply. Look at that, guys. Look at that. This is not centered, so we want to center this border. And we also wanted this to be dark mode. This looks good, but I want it to be dark mode. I want this to be dark mode. So I'm going to go back to Composer and just open a new Composer and just tell it, can you center the call to action button? Just to make sure it gets this right, I'm just going to reference, I think this is the button, right? I'm just going to reference it and say moving border. And now let's see, look at that, guys, it moved it. Now we have one last problem. I want this to be dark mode, so I'm just going to go back to Composer and say, just spin up a new Composer right here and say, can you make this application dark? So added a themes provider, made some changes to the 3D card demo, made some changes to the dark toggle, added some dark mode toggle, I guess, and added the dark mode class. That looks good, so I'm just gonna accept. And now let's see. Okay, so it's still loading. Let's give it a second. Just give it a second, guys. And it seems to have issues with the theming, so I'm just gonna copy this and give it a Composer and let it figure it out. So it looks like we just needed to add some packages that possibly used. Let's see what happens if I add a package. Next themes. So it removed a bunch of the components. I don't know why it did that. So I'm just adding them back. So it looks like Composer messed up. So I'm just adding them back. So these are the files it changed. Like this. A page. So I'm just gonna revert this back to the way it was. Okay. Alright. This is where you need a bit of experience when working with tools like Kesa, because it went ahead and made a bunch of changes to the page file that it didn't need to make. All it needed to do was to provide a component right here. All it needed to do was to create this themes provider and import this from Next Themes and wrap the component around it. That's all it needed to do. But for some reason, it went ahead and did a bunch of stuff that I didn't need to, made a bunch of changes, so I just had to revert them back. And now look at it, working as expected. Application looks good. It looks good. Maybe let's say I wanted to change this button right here. One thing I can do is I want to change that button. I can say hover border gradient demo. Can you replace, I think it's called the moving border demo, the moving border demo with this. I want to replace it with this. Let's see. And I made the changes, and you can see here it imported the component that we want, so I can just go ahead and accept, and we can check it out. And look at that, it did a great job. And now you can see it's. And that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and I hope it was helpful to you like it was to me. I learned a ton from making this video, and shout out to this YouTuber right here. Ton of videos on Kesa AI, and basically got this very idea from one of his videos, so shout out to him.